All right, well, how's everybody doing tonight? All right, well, we are starting week 4, and tonight we're going to be looking at um PHP forms using Ajax and jQuery. You might have heard, how many's heard of Ajax and jQuery before this week? Never heard of it. Hopefully, you had time to do some reading on it. There were some links there I put in there prior to tonight. Um, it's as you'll find out tonight, a very powerful tool to use for developers for validation, and also it just makes your forms look cool, I think, because uh, one of the things jQuery does and Ajax together is the validation happens without the form actually leaving anywhere. And so the user gets to see live results before they make a mistake. You know, because we've all filled out forms to where we've submitted it, it goes to another page and it goes, you missed something. Okay, what I missed, go back. You know, we've all done that. Well, jQuery and Ajax helps us to remedy that on the front end as developers. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. We'll do an exercise on that. I'll also show you some cool tools on creating what's called regex validation strings, which are long and ugly and confusing. But there's a site I have I'm going to give you that makes it easier for developers to weed through regex. And all regex is it validates strings of whatever type. So let's say the string is a social security number. The user has to put in 3-2-4 in the form. If they don't put that in there, it's going to invalidate the submittal like the IRS. And so regex is a string of validation. The one we're going to use tonight is for email, but for your homework this week, you'll be creating your own regex of whatever you want it to be. It could be a phone number, it could be a hashtag, it could be a Twitter handle with an at symbol and whatever your handle is. So regex is, again, there's a lot of resources online. One I'm going to give you is probably the most powerful resource for beginners and intermediate advanced people as well that use regex all the time. So we're going to cover a number of things: Ajax, jQuery in combination, and then regex using for validation as well. We're going to learn a couple new things tonight before we get started, though. When we go through our exercise, I'm going to be having you guys clone your work site tonight for the first time for our in-class exercise. So your site is the way it is now. Your site I had you created a few weeks ago, week 2. You're going to clone that site, and we're going to use that clone site to create the in-class exercise for your contact form. And then I'm also going to show you how within C9 you can share your workspace with me. That way, I think some of you have already submitted some stuff, and you're like, hey, you can't see this on my end unless I'm running my workspace. We're going to rectify that tonight by showing you how you can share me your workspace in read-only form to where I can run it anytime I want to and view whatever I want to on your site. And so that's the nice thing about C9 is you don't have to sit there and have it running at home. If you send it and share it with folks to be able to view it. And so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. Looking ahead for next week, week 5, we're going to be covering authentication and personalization on websites. What that's about is we've all logged into websites and it's personalized that website to our login. Like for instance, we log in and we want a different color theme. Show you how to do that with CSS next week. So people will be able to authenticate with your website and be able to choose a different color theme. That's what we're going to actually show you how to do next week by manipulating your CSS. We'll create a CSS for summer, spring, fall, and winter, and people will be able to choose one of the 4. Nothing real, out there as far as CSS goes. We'll just create 4 separate CSS files to allow that to happen. And so a person will be able to log in. You'll be using MySQL again next week and PHPMyAdmin to create a user login page. That person is going to be able to log in, change some stuff they want about your site, which would be like maybe color themes. We'll play next week. And so you'll learn what personalization does, because it's been proven when sites can be personalized to a person, they want to come back. An example, Facebook, right? Facebook's actually more popular at customization than Twitter is. Twitter is real quick at getting information out, and not to say end users don't use it, but most end users, consumers, use Facebook more than Twitter because the personalization touch, where you can personalize the apps you have, you can personalize the way your page looks, you can personalize who your friends are, who your friends aren't. You can follow a bunch of other people, and so it's a little bit more personalization. Add pictures to your heart's desire. And so a whole bunch of stuff they keep adding to Facebook for personalization. And by the way, Facebook is one of the examples we're going to look at tonight when we go over in class as an example of a site that uses jQuery and Ajax to the nth degree for customization. And it makes it look, from the end user perspective, very easy. From a programming perspective, you're just getting a touch up this week, by the way. It can be very complex, by the way, jQuery and Ajax. But I'm going to hopefully show you in a way that makes sense and that you can use it and replicate it, and then you'll keep learning as you go down that road. That makes sense. We can spend a whole semester just on Ajax and jQuery, 16 weeks, just on Ajax and jQuery, and probably just about maybe touch the surface in 16 weeks. And so you're getting 1 week, basically. So I'm giving you a lot, by the way, this week, just so you know, but you'll complete it. On average, I would say for this week, it's going to be a little bit more than last week as far as time creation of your site, implementation of your site. Hopefully, it'll be less time in the implementation of your module, which means you should know by now, by watching the podcast I created, hopefully, on how to, when you create a module for your PHP site, how to create an iframe page, how to bring it into your code using div tags, and bringing it into your menu. Hopefully you've got a chance to watch that. If you didn't, I suggest doing that because we're going to be using that from here on out, implementing what you do into your page, into Bootstrap. And most of you, I think, in here did like 80% and higher on the Bootstrap tutorial when you did the little quiz. And so it might be a good refresher to go back to that possibly as we go on. The way this class is structured, like a lot of programming classes, we don't really rehash what we went over the first, last week, or even the, first 2 or 3 weeks of class since we've started. So we just kind of build upon what we've learned. And so I mentioned last week, it's probably beneficial to redo stuff over and over again immediately after class is over. That's one of the reasons I end a little earlier, is where you can either hang out here or you can go home, and while it's fresh in your mind, redo the lab over and over again. That's going to help you out tremendously. If you can redo the lab 5 to 10 times between now and tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, you're going to have it down pat. And that's about how many times it's going to take you to do it, I'm guessing. Some of you might, like our brain surgeons in PHP, might be able to do it in one time, but most of us have to probably redo it at least 8 to 10 times, and by that 10th time, hopefully, we're getting it, and we're not having to read the instructions as much or watch podcasts as much. We're kind of getting it down. So does that all make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the link in week 4 where it says week 4 module. Click on that week 4 module. And the podcast one's empty. Let's go to the reading one first to kind of go over that. Make sure you do all of the reading in here. The first one will be covering a little bit. The first link and the last read link we'll be covering a little bit in the in-class exercise. The bitrepository.com, a simple Ajax contact form with PHP validation. There's a tutorial plus code you can download. In fact, the one we're doing for the in-class is kind of a manipulation of that and fitting for our class. The next, CSS tricks for a simple contact form. Then the third one is a PHP tutorial on Ajax form validation. Then a really good link on 3 schools, W3 schools on jQuery Ajax intro. That's the one I'd really like you to focus on and do all the little examples like 3 schools has you do. So as you do a little reading, it has you do something, do a little reading, do something, reading, do something. Go through all of those. That's going to help you a lot. And then the sign up for Mailgun. I'd like you guys to do that actually right now. If you've not signed up for Mailgun, go ahead and click on that link in the week 4 reading and sign up with your Gmail account. to the Mailgun site. And question for this week's reading is, what surprised you about jQuery and Ajax? And then you'll submit your answer below after you've done all the reading. Okay, but go ahead and sign up to the Mailgun repository. Mailgun is a developer tool to help you use their SMTP server to send mail in your form. Use send mail in your forms, and so it's a free service, and I've used it in multiple projects for companies, for personal stuff, for school stuff, and it works really nice. For mobile apps, have 2 or 3 mobile apps on the App Store that use Mailgun for sending mail to me when people have a question or something on a page. And so Mailgun is an awesome tool that what's nice about Mailgun is it gives you a lot of resources for developers as far as code documentation. So some of the documentation, all the documentation with a Mailgun is very good, and it's constantly updated. What Mailgun is basically is an API that uses SMTP on their end to send mail, and at no cost to you as a developer. APIs, as far as quickness in developing anything, whether it be websites or apps for mobile or Windows or any other devices. APIs are used a lot from developers to develop rich services for end users, and Mailgun is one of those services. And they've been around for a number of years. And you'll notice at the top of the page when you sign in, or on this documentation page, it has documentation for curl, which is a popular language, Ruby on Rails, popular language, Python as well, PHP like we're using in here, Java, C#, and Go. And so those are all very popular languages within the web developing world. And so give you a few moments to do that. When you do sign up successfully, it should, as soon as you log into Mailgun after you sign up successfully, I believe you do have to validate your email, if I'm not mistaken, when you sign up. Is that right? So make sure and validate your email, because you will be limited on usage if you don't. But then once you validate and then log in, it should direct you to the dashboard like mine. And you'll notice mine's got some activity because I just created it like a week ago, I think, not even that long ago, for this class. I created a new account just to show you what it looks like. For a developer, what's cool about it is it kind of gives you activity on what's been going on your apps that are using Mailgun. Like, for instance, I hovered over that Tuesday, and it says delivered 6 emails, or use this API 6 times, drop 0. Today it's used 5, and when I created it, the day I created it, Tuesday 3/29, all right, yeah, I did 6 initially that day for testing purposes. And so that's it's 100% delivered, 15 outgoing messages totally that's been used, 100% delivery, and 0 dropped messages. And so it gives you analytics as a developer to determine how often people are using it, which is nice as a developer, to be able to know analytics. Analytics is something that Google does really good with, because you can sign up through Google Analytics free service at no cost and sign in. You can put hooks in your website to see at any moment's notice what people are visiting on your site, how long they're on a page, things of that nature. And as a developer, we use that a lot to determine most popular pages maybe we need to work on a little bit. In fact, if people come to a page and exit immediately, within moments. There's probably nothing interesting on that page. So maybe there's some things you can do to make it more interactive to bring people in. There's a stat that's an old stat, but still pretty true. If you don't catch the eye of your user within 3 seconds, once they see your site, they'll never come back. Never. Won't happen. You can even hear people talk well of the site afterwards. Don't matter. Never go back. And so it's real important to use analytics to determine that, and have a lot of people test it and stuff. So I talk long enough for everybody to get logged into Mailgun. Still working on it. Has it not sent your validation or something? You have no internet. Does anybody else have the same deal? Nobody has internet in the whole class. Who doesn't have internet?
It's just saying the site can't be reached.
Do I know?
The site can't be reached. But like I've been able to like get to the account and stuff to start, but you can't install it.
Okay, try this for me. Just type in on the URL, just type in mailgun.com again, and then hit enter. Without the HTTPS, just put in mailgun.com. Okay, let's choose a different Wi-Fi. Let's choose a Wi-Fi connection. So turn on your Wi-Fi for me. Turn and go down to, let's do RBC guest. We're just testing this out. There it goes, finally loaded. Go to RBC guest. Looks like his finally loaded. Anybody else just finally loaded? All right. Well, I wasn't gonna have nobody jump on Wi-Fi full network. We can do this on Macs too, by the way. On the upper right corner of your Mac is like a mine is a Wi-Fi selection. What I recommend here, if ever happens where you can't get connected, you can jump on RBC guest or RBC and enter in your S number password. And actually your Wi-Fi in here is probably faster. Well, it's not probably, it is faster. It's faster than on a landline coming into the computer. So that's just a tip for you. If you're ever working in here, we're in here in the lab and it dies, your network dies, internet dies, you can just hop on the Wi-Fi and select. How many do you use Wi-Fi in the building? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Most of you haven't then. If you look at the overhead, you see where I've got RBC guest selected here. You can select that one, which is fine. That's what I'm on right now. No authentication on that one. If you go to RBC, you would have to authenticate with your S number and password, and then you can go about your business.
That's the fastest one?
Do what now?
That's the fastest one?
The RBC one actually used to be faster, but the RBC guest I haven't had any problems with in the last few days. So
Because the RBC guest comes to launch.
yeah, it works pretty good here. I don't know if it's where they have the access point, but it works pretty good here in this room anyway. Yeah, but either one will work. I would say try the if you're in a hurry, RBC guest, right? If you have a few seconds to log in, RBC would be the one I recommend. So did everybody now get into your Mailgun page? Who's not in yet? I'll see if I can help you. Is it still loading? Okay, yeah, let's try exit out the browser altogether. And then we'll fire up Chrome. Yeah, let's fire up Chrome. All right, so she had her shut down her browser and reopen up Chrome and on. She's out. Did you choose the RBC guest or RBC?
Yeah, I tried it a couple.
The RBC guest? Yeah, it seems like that one's the strongest one in here tonight. And the reason I know it's stronger, by the way, is because it's the top of the list. Just another tip for you. Anytime you see Wi-Fi access points at the top of the list, it's the strongest signal from where you're at right now, from your device. Well, I'll give everybody a moment here to get connected. Well, I guess we're supposed to get snow tonight. Woo! Pretty pumped about that. Do I? We've had enough. Yeah, I agree, man. That last Saturday, really, as we were at breakfast or something. It was a late breakfast, by the way, because it was like noon. And so, anyway, all the kids were there, and we were leaving, and it was like a blizzard at noon on Saturday. I couldn't believe it. And a lady in the restaurant goes, "I think you might want to wait a little bit because there's a blizzard outside." I said, "I'm not waiting. I'm going up there." And then Sunday afternoon, it was 70 degrees. What's up with that? Yeah, I think there's been a lot of people get sick this week too. I don't know if a lot of people, students, faculty, both, been getting sick this week. And no wonder, go from 20-degree weather, 70-degree weather, cold weather, warm weather, you know. I think we had every season this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, literally every season you could think of. Hail, snow, sunny,
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. And especially
beach weather, blizzard weather, snowmobile weather, whatever. It's crazy. We're finally working for you back here? Nada? What's going on? Might want to work for you now. It's, what, all right, I think everybody's in now. So make sure everybody's on the same page. Let's everybody click on the mail gun icon on the upper left corner of the page. And if you're in the documentation page, you'll have to get out of that and come back to your main page by typing in mailgun.com. As soon as you click on the mailgun link or the icon, is what I generally do, it'll bring you to the dashboard, and I've already went over it. The one place we'll need to go to, but we'll come back to in a second, is the domains link. The domains link, I don't know what your guys' looks like. Does it have a domain in there yet? Good. It should say active domain, sandbox, whatever, right? Okay, so what this is, sandbox domain is what it sounds like. The term sandbox means test environment. And so we'll be using this for this class. But you can use sandbox for any apps that you want to use Mailgun for. So it doesn't have to be just web apps. It could be, a C# app. It could be an iOS app, a Droid app. There's code available for. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you would want to create a separate Mailgun account for each app is what you want to do. So that's why I told you I told you to create it from a Gmail account. What I generally do is when I create a new project that's going to use Mailgun, I create a brand new Gmail account just for that project. And I use that Gmail account for everything that project related. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So say it's a new website I'm building for a company. Immediately I create a Gmail account, and generally I create a Gmail account, like say if the company's name is ABC, the name of the company, I'll try to create a Gmail account that has ABC somewhere in the, I'm not going to get ABC at gmail.com, I already know that, but I might get ABC 2016 or something, whatever. And then I use that Gmail for everything. So for Mailgun, because you're going to be, logging into a lot of different repositories and APIs and communication. Everything that I deal with that customer is with that new Gmail account, if that makes sense. And when you create a new Gmail account, you always have the opportunity to tie it to an existing Gmail account. And what I suggest is if you don't already have it, create a Gmail account that's outside of Rock Valley College, that's your personal Gmail account, right? Then when you create these other Gmail accounts, use that personal one as the source Gmail account in case you forget your password on the other ones, which you will if you don't use them in a year or two like I do. And it'll send you that password reset to that main Gmail account for recovery or whatever. And Gmail always uses two-factor authentication. What that means is it'll send a text message along with validation on, sometimes like, password and cell phone validation, basically. It's two-factor. And so username, password is the first factor. Second factor is cell phone validation, like you guys did tonight. And so, yeah, I create a separate Gmail. Then for my Mailgun, I use that Gmail to create an account. And so I know when I go to that account, I can see the analytics and all that good stuff. So does that make sense? So separate Gmail for every project you ever create from here on out. That's what I suggest doing, regardless of what the project is. It could be a web project, it could be whatever project. Create a free Gmail, because guess what? They're free and easy to create. And you're not messing with your personal email that way. Next is, on this page anyway, under the domains, if you'll click on under the domain column, that sandbox link, click on that if you wouldn't mind. What it'll show you here is what we're going to be using in just a second in your code, in your PHP code. In order to use Mailgun, a couple things have to happen in C9. And we'll do it here tonight in our lab. But the first thing we've got to do is we've got to install the API in C9. Once we install it, and there's a command you guys will type in to do that, a couple commands actually. Once you install Mailgun into the web server as an API, it'll create a folder for it and everything. Then in the code, two things have to be retrieved from this domain page. One is the sandbox URL, which is that ugly sandbox name .mailgun.org, and then this API key. The API key and the Mailgun sandbox URL are the two things you need to use Mailgun. The two items you need to use Mailgun. That's it. That's all you need. Once you start using it and realizing how to use it, so the example we use tonight, you can literally reuse the code to send mail on every application you ever use Mailgun with PHP anyway. There's other examples out there on the documentation page for all the other languages that are mentioned in documentation. We're going to focus only on PHP, but there's other examples out there. So you're not in the dark as far as, do I have some code examples? Yes, they have them here in Mailgun for you. So notice it gives you the green light of active. Then it gives you what your IP address is. That's actually your unique IP address for your unique sandbox URL to send mail. That's your host name. If you were going to use it for like setting up on a phone app or something like that, you might have in the past set up SMTP email possibly. That's for that. SMTP login, password, and yes, that's the ugly password that they want you to use. And then the base API URL. But the only things you'll be using as a developer anyway, mainly is the sandbox URL and the API key. That's it. That's all I got to use. Everything else you don't really have to touch. The other things I'll mention is if you go over to the mailing list, it does have, and I've not used this before, this is one of the new features, is you can create your own mailing list of recipient addresses, and each time you send a mail to that alias address, we send a copy of it, of the original email, to the recipients on the mailing list. And so let's say you created an app where you wanted the owners of that app that you're creating wanted a response every time a customer filled out a form. Here's where you could do it. So you could just add in their names and emails here in the mailing list, and every time they used a form on that website, it would forward that information to those customers or the owners of the site. I've not used it, but it works pretty good, I've heard. Then logs gives you logs of the page or of your API. And it actually gives you every single log of delivery and failure. Like you'll see tonight, there's one here that says 4/6 at 6:57. Now, granted, the time is off on the server that was out here. I think it's an hour off. So it's 5:57, I think. 5:57 their time, our time, I mean. So notice it says it was delivered to cconkle@gmail.com with a test in the subject. And if I click on this little less than symbol, it actually shows me the exact email contents of that email that was sent, all the way from the recipient to the certification, if it was received or not. And again, most of this you will never read. I don't sit there and ever read this stuff. The only thing I ever watch for is if there's any type of warnings, errors. I click on that to make sure there's no warning or errors. That's about it. But you can click on each one of these and it'll say if it's been delivered or not, or accepted or not. And then you can refresh the log page to search it. Routes. This tells, again, a new feature I've not used. This is if you use an app that's going to filter things, like filter certain subjects. So say you had multiple forms on a website and you wanted to filter it to send it to certain individuals, here's where you could do it. So according to the subject of the email on the form, which you, by the way, as a programmer, hard code that in anyway, it's going to route it to whoever it is you want it to go to. Tracking tracks emails outgoing, really nice. Suppressions, these are any Mailgun will not perform the further deliver emails on this list. So you can actually add in, if your form actually, the one we're going to use tonight, does not send mail to the creator of the form, even though there's a field that says email, does not send an email to them. It only sends it to you, the developer, which a lot of websites do anyway. But if you wanted emails to be blocked, meaning you want certain individuals not to use your form, you could put their name in here and it would block them from being able to use your form as far as content being sent to them. And then webhooks gives different hooks you can add in to using Mailgun on like spam complaints. You want people to unsubscribe, you can set up webhooks for that. You can set up webhooks for how many times people click on a link, open a link. I don't have any set and we won't do it in here, but you can definitely do that. And there's documentation for all of that. So we'll go back to the domains and stay there. The other thing you can do, and I just added this in there just to kind of show you, you can add other domains to your Mailgun. When you add another domain, you have to verify it by placing a certain file in that website that Mailgun can see, and then it then verifies that, okay, it is a real site that you have control over, and then you can use it from that point on as a verified site. But as a developer, I generally only use, until the site goes live, I only use a sandbox one, okay? Because a lot of times during development, you're changing, like say you might start with C9, but then you move to a WordPress site, and they play with that for a while, and they're like, I don't really like that, and they move to another site. You might move 5 times before it actually goes live, and that's why I generally don't create any new domain until it's live. Now, when you create a new domain, it does show you on this how to verify your domain link how to do that. It's real simple. It's literally as simple as putting a file in a certain location on your web server, usually in the root of your website, that it can read, and then when it reads that, you're verified. That's as hard as it is. Now, you do get a new API and a new key with that, okay? You have to change it in your code, but that's it, in 2 places. That's all you gotta do. All right, so everybody's got your Mailgun. Just go ahead and keep that up and don't close it out. Worst case, when we come back later, it might time out and we have to log back in, but just kind of keep it there. That would be awesome. So, reading, we ended up with there, and we ended up on everybody getting on to Mailgun. And make sure and answer the question in the reading for week 4. The exercise we're getting ready to do in C9 is on creating a PHP form with Ajax validation. So what I'd like you to do is go and click on the example there. Once you click on the example, on the right side of the web page, click on contact, the contact link. It should bring you down to this section of the website. Go and enter in your name and put in a bogus email. Like what I mean by that is an incorrect syntax. So just put in like maybe your name or something in an email. Don't put an actual email address in there. And then put in a subject and comments. But all these, if I just click on send message right now, it's going to tell me enter your email, enter your name, enter your email address, enter your message. The only one that's not required here is subject. All right, everything else is required. but subject. So go ahead and enter in or fill out that form if you wouldn't mind, and try to validate each one of them if you want to. Take a few moments, make sure they're all working. It's going to only validate one at a time, by the way. It's not going to validate all 4 at the same time. It literally validates one at a time. Even though it shows you on the kickback that it's all 4 or all 3, it only does one at a time. And then the last comment one, if you didn't already read the error, should be at least 15 characters. Otherwise, it will kick back and won't let you submit it until you get 15 characters in there. If you want to just retype test over and over again, that's fine by me. I don't care. Once you successfully send it, it should get a message that says, your message been sent, thank you. And then I'll show you on the overhead everybody's email addresses as they come in. So I've got Casey's. Just come in, and when I click on hers, she put in a comment, I love this webpage. Thank you, Casey. And I could, if I wanted to, just hit a reply, and it'll go right to her Gmail account. I do not know what to type. This is just a test. I like that. There's mine. Test, 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 test. I've done it umpteen times. And so as they come in, I'm showing you on the web version of the, okay, thank you for that one. I like it. A little code within the message. I like that. And so as a developer, as a customer, I'm creating this for, it's nice to immediately get feedback of what's going on. Now, one of the things you'll notice when I click on each one of these in the email, notice it says via mailgun.org. Okay, that's required by the API. Okay, it's a free service, and allows, let me see here what the account settings here tells me. I have a free, we all have free accounts, but okay, the free plan allows you to send mail, but log retention is limited to 2 days, and sending will stop once you reach your free allocation. And let's see here. Right now, we've got free allocation is 10,000 emails a month. So that's more than enough, right, for developers. But you can imagine when you're testing, 10,000 emails is not a lot, okay, because you're doing this all day long, basically. People are testing your forms, and you're having other developers, your developer team's testing your forms. And so, as we can see, it looks like everybody's test has come through here into my Gmail account. And again, when I click on the form content, it gives me what was said in the comment section, and then I can just click reply and reply to that person immediately if they have a question about the site or a question about wherever that form is placed. Cool. Oh, I like that. I like that Gmail. Whose Gmail is this? Who's they? Okay, cool. I like that. Let's chase adventure at Gmail. Ooh, that was hard. Was that your Gmail? That's a hard one to get. Okay, cool. I like it. All right. So the web form works. So that's what you'll end up doing tonight. And you'll notice in my site, before I go back to and start the in-class exercise, you'll notice on the site I've embedded it in the Bootstrap. I already had a contact link in my Bootstrap, which I think a lot of you do. How many already has a contact link in your Bootstrap? Okay, if you already have a contact link in your Bootstrap, you don't need to add another link in your navigation. If you don't have a contact, you will. If you don't, you will. If you do, you don't. So anyway, all I had to add it to was the code in the contact area. And this is basically brought in with PHP that we'll learn about how we did it, or how I did it in code tonight. But this is inserted into the page in this location in the div tag, in a center div, and it's in the section for contact in the div. So it's a div section for a div section is what the navigation uses on all bootstraps. And when you click on a link in the bootstrap, so about, services, projects, guest book, it's going to that section of code in the div section. So all I had to do is create a new div section for center div section for contact, and using the insert statement for PHP or include statement for PHP to include that page in to my existing page right where I wanted it. And when I do that, it brings in all the code and everything in there, the entire page. All right, so click on the Nearpod and we'll get that started. So what is Ajax? Oh, before we do this, let's make sure, before we go over any further, if you'll click the left slide, so to go back one, make sure your name's in there where it says welcome to this section. Put your full name in there for me, and then click send, and then it'll go to the first slide. Make sure because we have a few things for you guys to fill in as we go along here. So Ajax, what it stands for is asynchronous JavaScript and XML is what it stands for. And so in short, Ajax is about loading data into the background and displaying on the web page without, and this is a key word here, without reloading the whole page. So it doesn't reload the whole page. It loads within the Ajax function that you'll see tonight in just a second in the code. Examples of applications that use Ajax that you've heard of: Gmail, Google, Maps, YouTube, and Facebook tabs all use Ajax and to do its dirty work. jQuery and Ajax. Well, jQuery provides methods for Ajax functionality. Basically, without jQuery, Ajax would be very difficult for developers to use. Okay, because there's so many different types of browsers, you would literally have to develop an Ajax section of code for every browser type. So a browser type for Firefox, a browser type for Chrome, a browser type for Safari, a browser type for, the list goes on and on, right? But when you couple in Ajax methods with, or jQuery methods with Ajax, it makes it work much simpler. So with jQuery Ajax methods, you request text, HTML, XML, or JSON from a remote server using both get commands and post commands. And we've done both in here thus far with PHP, get commands and post commands with forms. And then you can load the external data directly into the selected HTML elements on your web page using dynamic jQuery and Ajax. So the input would be, like, for instance, in tonight's example, we're going to do a simple contact form which has name, email, subject, and message. All four are text fields. Validation's done on all four. To make first validation, or take it back, for three of them, validation is done, except for subject. Subject's not done. First validation sweep is content, making sure there's something in each one of those fields for name, email, and message. The second time around, though, for email, it does a separate function using regex to make sure it's an actual email address. Now, some of you probably try to put in a bogus email in the form, and it goes, not going to work. Not a real email address. Anybody get that one? And then when you put in a real valid email address, meaning whatever characters, the @ symbol, whatever domain, dot, whatever, that you put that in that format, then it accepts it. And by the way, it doesn't look for a certain domain on the email because there's so many different domains out there right now. There's literally hundreds of domains you can get for a website and for an email server. So Ajax and jQuery, this is going to be we're just looking at snippets of code here on the pages that you'll be uploading in a second. The index.php page, one of the things I want you to notice on this snippet of code I got, and it looks better hopefully on your screen than on the overhead. It's really great out there. On the screen in front of you, don't look on the overhead because it's like, what? You'll notice underneath the form ID on line 50 that I've highlighted there, notice it says form ID equals AJAX contact form in quotes, action is empty quotes. Up to this point when you've used forms, action has generally been a post action to a page, right? Where you're not doing a post action, we're actually just using a form ID. We're going to use a form ID, and you'll see how it's used in a second, called AJAX contact form. Everything else below that form looks totally normal, what you're used to seeing in a form, right? It's got the input type, text on all of them, except for the last one, which is a text area. It has a name for each one. We've got name, email, subject, message, and then the button, submit button. So the only difference so far that you've seen up to this point is instead of using a post action, it's no action, and it's using a form ID to submit to, called AJAX contact form. Now, it could be called whatever. For this example, it's called AJAX contact form, and you'll see why in a second. So we'll go to the next slide. So here in the code, you'll see in a second, there's a section of the code in the index.php that looks just like this. $sign AJAX contact form dot submit function. What that's doing is, and when they click the submit button, it goes to this function in the index page, towards the top of the index page. And the code that's ran in between that left and right bracket is ran after the submit button is pushed. So we're not going to another page, we're actually on the same page here, and that's an important note. Up to this point, you've always done validation to another page or post to another page. We're now using AJAX, which stays in the same page. And like I said earlier, you could use whatever. We could call that pound whatever. It could be pound contact form, all one word, no dash or nothing. We just have to make sure below in the form, we would put the same in there, contact form in the form ID. Make sense? Next, after that, they have what's called AJAX form validation using jQuery. They have what's called a ready command, jQuery document ready. Basically what this means is a page cannot be manipulated safely until the document is ready, in quotes. jQuery detects the state of readiness for you. As a developer, you don't have to do it. It knows when it's ready. The code included inside document ready will only run once the page document object module, or the DOM, is ready for JavaScript to be executed. And you'll see this in action in a second. So just all you need to know right now is the document.ready tells, it's the document object model that tells jQuery this code or this page is ready to use whatever it is the data is in that page right now. So once the DOM is loaded, we determine this by using jQuery document.ready. The script checks if the user submitted the form by using a form submit. If it is, then the form elements like the names and values from the form are serialized in order to pass them to the AJAX cell. So we have an example here of a var symbol, a var J script used called var str equals form.serialized. And so everything in that form that's being submitted to AJAX jQuery would come into the variable str. Everything, all the fields, everything will come in. So going on, there are some options with the behavior of AJAX, and the information is from the jQuery. This is from the jQuery documentation, which again, I wanted to show you some important definitions, not all the definitions, but important definitions I think you should know. String type is the first option. This is determines the type of request that's made, like for instance, post or get. That's important. You need to know that. Remember, post is information posted from a form to another page, or in this case, to an AJAX function. Get gets the information from what? Do you remember? Up a little higher on the web page. Keep going higher. Yeah, the URL, exactly. In the actual URL, remember the question mark equals ID equals 1, like we did last week, remember? ID would be your variable. So get ID, ID1, ID2, ID3, ID4, Remember when we did the contact one last week? So the get command, the post command is a string type. It can get the string URL. It can determine if it's a URL that's being requested. The object string data is the data that's being sent to the server. It's converted to a query string. If not already a string, it's appended to the URL of the GET request. And Cprocess data option prevent this from automatically processing. Then lastly, the last is a function success. It's a function to be called if the request succeeds. The function gets past one argument, the data itself, returned from the server, formatted according to the data type parameter, whether it be post or get. Next page on the Nearpod, actually we're going to look at some code here. And on line 9 and line 9 brings in JavaScript for jQuery. You have to have that if you're going to use jQuery on line 9. Line 11 is the beginnings of needing all things JavaScript, all things for the script to work. You'll notice on line 11 and 36. 11 and 36 are one script area within the index.php page. It's a beginning and end tag. So the beginning tag for JavaScript's on line 11, the end tag for JavaScript's on line 36. You guys see that? On line 13 is where we add our JavaScript code using jQuery document.ready function. Okay, remember we talked about a few slides back how the .ready function is needed for the DOM. It determines if it's ready. Notice on line 15, there's the form information that was sent from the form. If the submit button's pushed, the Ajax contact form.submit function. If that button's pushed, it's going to go here. It's going to take the entire contents of the form by putting in the variable this.serialize is going to put everything into the str field or str variable. Then you'll notice on line 18 the .ajax with a left parentheses and then all the way down to you see here, let's see, for the Ajax one, it's the line 32. Yeah, line 32 is where the Ajax section ends. It starts in 18, ends in 32. So let's look at that section of Ajax. So notice the type is post from the form, okay? Remember it had to be post or get. This is line 19. Line 20, the URL it's going to process to is in an include folder, and the name of the file is contact-process.php. The data is str that was serialized on line 16 from the form. So everything in that form, all the fields and content are in that str serialized variable. And that's an important note. Success function MSG. All right. What's going to happen here is, we'll look at in a second, it's going to send that data to the contact process.php on line 20. If it's successful, or when it comes back, it's going to take, and if it finds that the message is equal to done in single quotes, it's going to kick back, your message has been sent, thank you, and then hide all the fields on the page by using the fields in parentheses dot hide. That's going to hide all the fields. If you didn't put that in there, by the way, all the fields you had on that form would be shown. But by one line of code, you can hide all the fields and just put the message you want to be shown in the div tag, which in this case is just your message has been sent, thank you. Now, if the message doesn't come back as done, and we'll see where done comes from in a second, it's going to give whatever message it needs to be on the form, which is generally like an error message or whatever the case may be. And then finally, it kicks the results out in that note.html results. So if we go to the next page real quick, here is the contact process page. One thing I want you to notice on line 6, this is a PHP page from beginning to end. Line 6, it requires what's called an autoload.php page, which is actually installed. We'll do that tonight when you install Mailgun and into your C9 repository workspace. It uses on line 7 Mailgun, the Mailgun API, Mailgun/Mailgun. Line 10 you're going to put in, instead of my email address, you'll put in your email address. Line 12, what this does is suppresses all warnings or errors for the end user not to see. That's a PHP error reporting line. Line 14 brings in all the posts. Notice it says if empty post true or false. That line determines if anything on that post is true or false, or if any of those fields are false, meaning that there's no content. If post, meaning it has content, then it includes the functions.php, which is going to be used, we'll see in a second, to validate email. Line 19, 20, 21, 22 brings in all the post fields, name, email, subject, and message. All right, brings all them in. Couple of things you'll see here I want to note is strip slashes and trim. Strip slashes keeps people from doing what's called SQL injection in your forms to get data from your forms. And what that means is if the programmer knows what they're doing, they can put actual code, like somebody did here tonight. You can put code in a field, and if you know what you're doing, and it doesn't have SQL injection blocked by using strip slashes, and what strip slashes does basically is strips all code references to tags, we'll just leave it at that, to tags. Like say, for instance, last week we did the MySQL, right? We did insert statements, delete statements, update statements. It would strip all that from the text. So that's what strip slashes does. It only leaves you the HTML portion or text version. The trim statement on line 11 trims the email, white space for left and right. And same thing with 21 and 22. Subject line is going to be stripped of all code language in that text that people might try to put in there. And then the error by default is empty. There's no error initially. So next slide, validation happens here. Starting with on line 23, by the way, you can barely see on this slide. That's the error equals empty quotes. Line 25 through line 44 validates a number of fields. The first one it validates is a name field. By putting in not name, the exclamation point name means there's nothing in there, nothing in that post. If there's nothing in that post, it's going to say please enter your name. Actually, at the top of the form, remember, it'll plug it in the error, and you'll notice on the error it has dot equals. What dot equals does is it appends each error as it comes along. All right. So that's why if you just hit the submit button on the form initially, which I'll do here on the overhead, you guys don't have to. So if I go down here and click the send message, it's appending all the error messages one after the other right on top of each other is what it's doing. And so that's what the dot equals doing each time. So if email doesn't come through, I get a please enter valid email address. Now, if the email is not empty, meaning it has something in it, then it's going to go another if statement that's going to validate that email that we'll see in just a second in the process.php page or the functions.php page. That's where the regex is going to be used, by the way. But let's say it passes all of that. It's not empty. It passes the validation email function in the functions.php page. On line 39, it now checks the length of the message that it's not less than 15. So if it's not empty and the string is not less than 15, it's going to be true on this statement. And then if it is empty or it is less than 15, it's going to kick back the message. Please enter your message. It should have at least 15 characters. Next, this one is the function, the contacts dot process page down further on line 47, where you start. Notice it says if there's no error on line 47, and the exclamation point stands for no in PHP. If there's no error, then on line 49, here's where you're going to plug in your Mailgun key and domain that we talked about earlier from your Mailgun site. On line 53, you're actually going to take the MG variable, which was defined on 49 as a new mailgun variable, is now going to be used MG slash greater than symbol send message, which is a mailgun function, by the way, domain, which is your sandbox domain, comma, the array, which is the from address, which is going to be the person that filled out the form's email address. The to address are going to be your email address that was filled out at the very top of the contacts.process.php page. That variable is filled out. Subject line is whatever subject line they put in the form. Text is whatever message they put in the form. So lines 53 through 56 is the entire bit of code to send an email using Mailgun. That's pretty powerful if you think about it. That's it. 5 lines of code or 4 lines of code. Now, if that message is good, it echoes done. And here's a key one now to remember. Remember in that index.php page, there's a word done in there. If it's equal to done, message equal to done on the success side. This is a keyword you'll need to know because in your exercise, that's a challenge I have you do, is change this up a little bit, that echo command. You literally never see the word done, by the way, on the browser. You never see it. It is echoed for a millisecond for the index.php page to see in the Ajax function, but you don't see it. And so I put here the keywords used to show the message. If the message is not sent, the error shows up. That error could be whatever. It could be you put in the wrong mailgun key. You put in the wrong mailgun sandbox domain. The email is wrong. Whatever the case may be. More than likely, though, just 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be on the variables you're sending, like email to email subject message. Those have been validated at this point. What's going to be the error here is usually your mailgun information, which is your key or your sandbox domain. Make sense? Lastly, if it is errored out, it's going to echo out in the div statement the error information. Next page. So what you're going to do is, I've already had you do this earlier, I just thought we'd expedite a little bit. You're going to go to the Mailgun app, click on domains, click under the domain area, and there's 2 items that you'll need to look for, which you've already looked for earlier, right? Which is the sandbox and the API key. So you'll need that in just a moment, by the way. You've already done that, though. You already know where they're at. And what you will do is basically, the reason I'm mentioning this is the next slide, which is a functions.php page. This is going to the function.php page. It's up above in the code. We'll see in a second. That validate.email comes from the function.php page. And here is the actual regex on the function.php page. It's only 14 lines of code for this function. But this line of code right here is very powerful, the regex line. This validates the email as an email. Okay. So you'll notice it says your beginning PHP tag, here's a function called validate email, and the word value comes from the contact process.php page. Regex plugged in here. If the value is not equal to empty quotes, or if it is equal to empty quotes, it's going to return false, means empty. Else, it's going to do what's called a preg replace, which is going to take that regex key and it's going to test it with the value. If it comes back empty, it's going to be false. If it comes back non-empty, it's going to be true. Okay? Or empty is going to be true, false. If it's not empty, it's going to be false. All right? Do what now? I'm sorry, what was that? There's no message? Yeah. What it comes back with is on the index, on the prior page, the process page, if it's empty or the email's invalid, it'll just come back with one message. And that one message, remember, was, I'll go back and show you here. You guys can say where you're at. It was, let's see, please enter a valid message, email address. So whether the email's empty or it's not a valid email, it doesn't matter either way. It's going to come back with the same message. Now, you could, though, if you wanted, create another if statement just about valid email only, and say this is not a valid email address. Or if it's empty, have to put something in there. But a lot of developers choose to use the same verbiage. In fact, you'll notice here on the first error, it says when it's left empty, it just says please enter an email address if it's empty. If it's not empty, it says, and it comes back invalid, it says please enter a valid email address, which makes sense. Okay, so because on this if statement, it means if email is true, meaning has something in it, and validation is false. And the reason I know it's false here is because it has that ampersand or has the exclamation point before validated email. Because remember, on the validated email, going back to that page, return empty string. If it's empty, it's going to be true. If it's not empty, it's going to be false. So it should come back false, meaning it's not empty, in order for the message to come back right. Now, what I want you to do is we're going to have some fun here. You're going to do a little fun exercise. You're going to create a regex for a phone number with the following format: XXX-XXX-XXXX. And in place of the X's, you can actually use your real phone number, by the way. Okay? So let's everybody go to that website, txt2re.com. So just create a new tab in your web browser, and I'll leave this up for a second. txt, the number 2, re.com. As soon as you go to that page, I'll clear out my stuff here. It looks pretty like, oh, this is a stupid website type of thing when you first look at it, but it's real powerful, okay? What this allows for developers to do is create regex tests, basically, from just text. So you'll see a lot of resources out there, by the way, that show you what regex rules are. Like if you want a number, this is what you want to do. If you want a dash, this is what you want to do. If you want an ampersand, this is what you want to do. So it shows you the reverse. It says, okay, figure out the regex first, then validate second. This one says, what kind of string do you want to put in there anyway for the user? That's what it says. What's the end result? So I want my users to put in a phone number. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my phone number on number 1. You put your phone number in, but separate the numbers by the dash symbol. So I'm putting 815-713-6321. As soon as you type your number in with the dashes in between each number, go ahead and click the Show Matches. Now what's cool is, it's doing here is, it's giving a graphical representation of your string you just typed in. So here's my 815-713-6321. Then it gives a whole bunch of stuff you can click on here. I'm going to show you how it works. If I hover over the C underneath 8, and whatever yours number is, most of yours is 8 in here, it actually tells you in the alt tag what this is. It says matches against any single character. If I put over 8, match against 8. If I put over D, match against any single digit, match against 8. Well, out of these 4, which one do you think I want? Because all these a number could be done number. Anybody, it doesn't, is every number going to be an 8 for everybody's phone number? No. So that one's out. We can say 8 and 8's out. Let's talk about C and D. C is matching against any single character. What's the problem with that? It can be a letter. Well, we want a number, right? So that's out. So we've delimited it down to the D. So everybody click on D underneath your first number, which matches against any digit. You'll notice as soon as you clicked on that, if you go down to number 3, it already starts populating some code here for you automatically in there. But we'll go back to that in a second. Let's go to the next one. 1. It's going to be the same. D. 5. D. Let's go to the slash or the dash. The first one is C, which is any single character. Well, I want a dash to be used. So that one's out. The next one is actually match against a dash. So that's the one I want to click on. When you click on it, by the way, it goes grayscale in the background. Then you go to the next one. So keep doing that all the way across. We've already done the first section here the first number, dash. So do the rest of them real quick. D on all numbers. The dash on the dash. So as soon as you go through all number 2 and they're all grayed out, at the very bottom, there's all the different types of expressions. It gives you Perl by default, that's the first one on the list. But we're going to click on PHP. And this is a code we can use for a function in PHP to give us a regex. And what it does is, it gives, what I like about it is, notice underneath the second line underneath the beginning PHP tag, it gives you a URL there. That URL you can save in a notepad, what I generally do. I'll save them in a notepad, and I'll just click on it, and I'll just copy and paste the URL browser, and then it goes right to that. I don't have to redo this all over again. I just do it once, it's done. So, by the way, there are sites you can go to that shows you, okay, what's some common regexes. Can you find sites that give you regexes for phone number? Yeah, definitely, you can do that. StackOverflow.com would be one I'd recommend. You can just go to StackOverflow.com and type in PHP regex for phone number. Give you tons of examples, and they all work. A lot of them work, not all of them work, but a lot of them work for you. But I like this because it's graphical. It's showing you what it's doing as it's doing it. So you'll notice here in the first variable is a text variable with my input that I put, which will be your input, which will be your number. Then a number of other variables from RE1 to RE12, and each one of these past the equal sign gives you the regex value for each one of these, which I think helps when you're learning regex because it breaks down the regex. When you're looking at the ugly string of regex, like we're going to look at in a second in the contact.php, it's just a long, ugly string. This breaks them down one by one. So the first one, I want just any single digit, first 3, then any single character, then character, dash is what I want in quotes. Next 3 is the same as the first 3, then the dash again in single quotes. Then my last 4 is in single quotes with parentheses, any single digit. Then in the if statement, it does a function for you. You don't have to use it, but I like how it gives you a function that you can use with the preg match, meaning it must match all from the text in order for this to print out. Okay, this will never hit this if this doesn't match all. Every single one of the arguments have to be matched. Okay, you'll notice on this part here, it separates them by a dot operator, which we went over here in PHP. It's going to concatenate each one of those regexes into the regex string. So that's the first argument, is the actual regex. Second argument is that or take it back, the last one here is it's ending it. That's beginning, ending the regex. Text is coming from my number. Matches is going to put all these in an array if it works, if it matches. And put along an array called matches. And you'll notice that matches over here, it's used for the first one, match 1, 0, match 2 array, 0, all the way down. They're going to have 12 arrays. It's going to be used. And then it's going to print them all out in that order in parentheses as it was tested. And so you could actually use this code as it is in a PHP page, and it works. But I thought I'd show you that because you're going to be doing regex, and I am doing a podcast to help you even further because this looks kind of ugly. It is. I'm not saying it's not, but I like how it breaks it down. I'm going to show you in the podcast how you can take all this information here, right there, that I've just highlighted, and put it in a nice regex string to look like, let me bring it up here real quick, to look like this right here, one line. I'll show you how to do that in the podcast. We won't go over that tonight because it'll take too long. But that tip or this site, you want to bookmark it, the txt2re.com, awesome site for regex validation and showing you how regex works and giving you code to use as well, which I love. Pretty cool, right? So on the next page in your Nearpod, it tells you to copy and paste your regex code from the exercise. All I want you to paste is, by the way, is the sorry, page is zoomed out. Oh, that's why. All I want you to paste, by the way, on this one is, well, let's do this. We got plenty of text in there. We got room. Just paste all of this. Copy all this in there. Copy all of it from the entire PHP code from beginning to end tag. Copy all of it, and go back to your Nearpod and just paste it in, and hit send. And I already have the podcast created. I've not put it on here because I didn't want to add more to this week already, but there is a podcast I have out already on regex formatting, which will help you with this week's assignment. Okay, the exercise we're going to do now is we're going to follow directions in week 4 exercise, which is the very next slide. When you go to the next slide and click on the click here to open web page, it should open Eagle right to the exercise 4 page. And if you're not logged in, it doesn't matter. You can see it anyway. I made this a public page to where you don't have to be logged in either way. So underneath the Nearpod, click here text is number 1, where I have clone your site and add week 4 to the end of the URL of your site. So if you want to watch me first, here's my workspace that I'm going to be cloning called Web102. So if you'll log in to your C9 environment, once you log into it, you'll get to your workspace, and then you'll see your workspace, and you'll notice some buttons that you've not clicked on yet, probably called clone. So I'm going to click on the clone button. As soon as I click on the clone button, it's going to bring me to a brand new workspace page. And I'm going to notice it puts on the end of it cloned. I'm going to have it replace it, clone the word cloned, with week 4. And then you don't need to put any description. And make sure week 4 is all lowercase. I caps the W. And so I'm replacing clone with week 4. And then I'm clicking create workspace. So it's literally going to duplicate my workspace for me to test my contact form that we're going to create. So go ahead and do that. Go ahead and log into your C9 page. When you see your workspace, instead of clicking open, click clone and replace the word clone with week 4. And then click create. And depending on how many files you have in your workspace, depends upon how long it's going to take to clone. A code and some downloading files, and you'll see a new folder created in your root called vendor. Everybody see that? It should start popping up once things start loading on that script. Because I'll read my script while you're looking. It installed what's called Symphony, which is for code cache. Guzzle is used for mail. Mailgun is used for mail. All right. And then it should say at the end of it, writing lock file, generating auto load files. And you should see on the left a vendor file. If you'll expand that vendor file, it should look like mine, or that vendor folder. You should have in the vendor folder a subfolders of Composer, Guzzle, Mailgun, and Symphony. All right, it should look just like mine. You should also have a file in there called autoload.php at the very bottom of that folder. Everybody have that? All right. Okay, so we're creating the root of our site for week 4. Control click on the root folder. Mine's Web102 week 4. I'm going to create a new folder called contacts. And resize your browser to where it's about 50% of your monitor, like mine. And we're going to have to go to the download section of your Mac to get the zip file. So if you look on the overhead, if you just go to the bottom right corner of your Mac, where my mouse is hovering, and do a control click where it says downloads, control click and just open downloads. It'll take you right to your downloads folder. You double click on that zip file I had you download, which I believe I called what, contacts.zip, is that right? So open up the downloads, double click on contact.zip. It'll create a folder, extract a folder called contact, double click on that. And there should be an includes folder, a JS folder, a style folder, and an index.php file. 4 in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to move those files, copy those files into your context folder. So I'm going to go back to my C9, click on my contacts folder, go to File, Upload Local Files, and drag and drop as always those 4 files, or 3 folders in a file, into that drag and drop area. And once you drag and drop everything and you see that there, you can make your web browser normal size again. And we're going to start with the index.php page. So double click on that whenever you get it copied over. Do what now? Oh yeah, Chrome. Remember, Chrome works the best on drag and drop. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have a problem installing? That's the 102, because I know 2's. What up? We talked about for Bootstrap. When you set up the account. What do you mean? That's where you just copy off. Oh, you already did it. Okay. Oh, you already did the exercise. Okay, you just create another folder if you want to called contact 2. Gmail.
Oh, okay.
You get the message on Gmail. It'll go in your inbox. Yep.
So nothing to do with
No.
the mail. Yeah,
Well, it uses Mailgun, but it sends it to your Gmail account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so on the index.php page, starting at the very top or towards the top, there should be an area here. Let's see. Oh, I'm having you change the title. I changed mine to contact. It says contact form. Let's see. I'm having you guys do. Let's see. Changing the title to your last name space contact form. Put a lot of thought into that one. What should I have them name it? Let's do last name contact form. So last name space contact form, do a Command S to save it. Next, after you do that, a number of changes in the, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit to where you can see it hopefully better. You guys see that better back here in the back? All right. So the next changes you're going to be making is actually in the contact dash process.php, and you can read the changes you need to make up there. And remember, you'll need to go to the mailgun.com site to get to key and web server, and 61 replace done with success. And then you'll go back to the index.php page and replace done with success. You have to figure that one out yourself. I did give you a hint though, it's in the Ajax function. Do I know? Does it say done? What was it? What was it? 51. Okay, replace okay with success. Not done. Yes, index.php all the way to the top. You change the title. And now you're going to go to the includes line 9, 8. Let me correct that real quick. And then Mailgun 47, 48, 57, 58. 58. And then done was okay, right? And what line was that on? What is it? 69? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I must have updated that quite a bit. All right. So once you've done those changes, then you're going to run and test those changes by control clicking on the index.php page. Make sure validation works first, then submit it, then check your email in your inbox to make sure you got the email. Then on number 7 and 8, we'll do together on adding your contact form to your website in Bootstrap. Oh, and we figured out hers is back. We were able to install that with the version, was it 1.8? We were able to use it. 1.8. Just so you know. In fact, you want me to get in there real quick? Are you working on? Is this a brand new? Or are you back in the old? This is week 4. Oh, no, week 4. Okay, you mind getting there real quick? I'll get you up to speed on your existing site. That way, because we're going to be embedded in the page. It might be nice to have actually your work site. Okay. All right.
To be honest, like the one work in progress for week 3. So.
That's all right. Was it what index?
Index 2.
Index 2.
Yeah, like that's the one I was still working on for week 3.
That's fine. I want to try something here. See if it works.
1.8 is
1.8. Oh yeah.
8 months ahead.
Okay, anybody get successful on the test of the email? Email success yet? Nada? Yeah. What do you mean email wasn't right? On the form itself? Yeah. But you put in the email kind of that's what it is. Okay, we'll try that then. Everybody try the email. Might be an internal link in the building. Try the email that you set up your mail gun with. Or no, try the email that you have in the code, right? Is that what you're saying? The email you put in the code you send to? Has to be matched the form. And was that the same email you used to set up your mail gun? Yeah, correct. Okay. So if everybody uses the from address on your form as the one you set up on your mail gun, try that. Did you have a problem with that? Do I know? We're fine. Okay. Let's do this then. Let's back it up. If you look on the overhead, maybe I'll help you out a little bit because it shouldn't matter. I thought it might have been internal link blocking here, but if you don't mind, let's look at the code on the overhead. We'll go through it together. I'm going to close out of this when I go to about one I've already completed. So give me a second here. Okay, we're going to start with the includes contact process.php page. Make sure you put in your email in place of whatever was there for recipient email. Make sure you've done that. And go down to where the mailgun information is and the domain information. Make sure your key and sandbox match the key and sandbox for your mailgun. Like mine's, what I generally do is just do key dash, and then my first three is 9D9. So I'm gonna go back here to my sandbox, and there it is, key 9D9. So I know that's correct. And then my sandbox in quotes, I'll look at the first four characters after sandbox, which is 4, 5, 6, 8, just to confirm it's the correct one. Yeah, it's the correct one. And do make sure that it's in double quotes. And then I had you guys change the echo OK to what is it, success? I'll do that on mine. Success. Command S it and save it. Go back to my index.php page, and you should have changed it in the, mine's on line 24, but yours probably isn't. It's where it says if message equal done, or in your case, I think it was okay. I'm changing it to success. That's where the change should have been. And then now I'm going to control click on the index.php page, run it, and click on the link there it gives me at the bottom and open it, and then go and do my test. And I'm going to try a different email than I usually have been trying. I'll try my Yahoo account, but I've been using Gmail on that. Shouldn't matter. And then send it. And now let me check my inbox. Looks like it already came in. And Make sure it's not in my junk mail. Could also send it to your junk mail too, possibly. On some of your websites, spam mail or whatever they call it. Well, now mine's not working now. You know, what I think is happening is on the mailgun side, they're probably seeing us all sending our mails from the same location, IP address, and they're blocking it, if I was to guess. Do I know? Okay. It might just be sporadic. I'm guessing that's what it is, if I was to guess, because mine was working now. It's not, did not go through yet, so it might be a lag on getting the email, I'm guessing. So I wouldn't worry about it. If you did get an error on your page, it's one of two things. On this side, on Mailgun side, I'm sorry, they're seeing it as an abnormality of people sending from the same IP address, which the way they see our building in here is one IP address when we send stuff. So that could be the case. It also could be the case of just having to wait for it to get into your mailbox queue or cache in Mailgun. So it, as long as you didn't get an error on your page, you got this message has been sent, you should be good to go. You should be good to go as you get that. Okay, it sent it successfully anyway. Now, here's what we can do. You should be able to go to the Mailgun page and let's go to the log file. I believe we should be able to see it there if it was sent successfully. And if it failed, it'll tell us why. Let's see. Here it says it failed. Mine did from the server. Yahoo.com is not accepted due to domain whatever. So Yahoo is not accepted. It's blocked. That might be why. So if we try a Gmail account, let me try that to test that theory. So even though it sent successfully on my side, it didn't go because it's being blocked on the Mailgun side. So let me check to make sure that's the case. So I'm going to put in let me put my Rock Valley College email this time. So that's what it is. And it'll tell you in the log why it blocked it. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my log in Mailgun. Click on it again. Now that one was delivered. The one I just sent was delivered, and it should come to my inbox. Yep, there it came on my inbox in Gmail. So the log will tell you if it doesn't go through. In this case, Yahoo is blocked. That's why. The domain Yahoo is blocked on Mailgun site. Interesting. That's good to know. So any other email you use should work, I guess. Make sense? So I'm glad I thought of that. So that's a good lesson in using the logs of why something didn't go through. So everybody able to get yours to go through? You still have, who has not got theirs to go through? Okay, let me try. Who has got theirs to go through? Okay, could I have some helpers here? Raise your hand if you couldn't get yours to go through, real quick. Raise your hand if you could not get yours to go through. Okay. Would you mind coming over here? I'll have you come over here, and I'll go over there. And again, check the Mailgun stuff. I have no idea. You guys,
Yeah, it's
all right, cool.
So we double check the input the success today.
Okay, it's double quotes. I think on success, isn't it? It says single quotes. Should be double quotes. I thought.
Oh, okay.
I believe so. Yeah, that'll matter. Let me make sure and confirm that. Nope, you're right. Single quotes. And let's go back to your contact process page. See where you changed it there. Where'd you change your success message? Yep. And let's just check the spelling to make sure everything's good. And you checked your Mailgun key and your sandbox, right?
Yep.
Yeah, let's go back and check. And you check the logs,
I haven't checked that.
check your logs, and refresh it. Okay, and let's try to do a test now of just that index.php. Control click it, control click one.
I think I have it in the wrong file. Because I'm like, okay, this is working, but it's turned out it's not.
We'll soon find out, right?
So that's sandbox.
Do that thing in sandbox. How about you?
Yeah, I just
And was your old one working too?
yeah, it worked.
All right,
Then
I'd say
it-
stick with that one.
you know,
Okay, here we go. Almost done. Let's see. So we ran the test. Now what we're going to do is, if you look on the overhead, we're going to do this together. I have a podcast, by the way, I did last week. I emailed everybody about how to include your code into your site. Remember that one? If you didn't get a chance to see it, I'll just show you how to do it on the overhead. So what I did was I want you to create in your website a folder called modules. So go ahead and create in your website a folder called modules, if you would. Do you already have one in there? If you already have one in there, use that one. Yep. If you already have one in there, then it means you watched the video. Just use the same one. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just to help you do not have to type so much, I'm going to put in that week 4 the code that you're going to be using anyway for that module section. Okay, so everybody got the modules, or you had a module already created. What you want to do is click on the modules folder, and how many already has a module in there? Okay, so click on if you have one, go ahead and click on that one that you have in there, like for maybe MSG or apps or whatever, and copy the code you have in there, which is an iframe. Those of you that don't have a module in yours, do not have a file in your modules folder and didn't have one, if you go to week 4 exercise and refresh the page, at the bottom of that week 4 exercise is a bit of code. It's an iframe code that you're going to use, okay? You're going to have to replace it with the word contact with the name of the folder that you have on yours, which, no, it should be contact. So, should be the same one. Those of you that had copied the code from whatever you had in there, copy that one, go to the modules folder, then control click on the modules folder and add a new file. And let's name it contact.php. I'm going to put contacts.php because I already had one there called contact. Double click on it once you create it and paste that iframe that you copied into there. And you're going to have to, those of you that got it from week 4 exercise, you should be good to go. What that iframe does is it loads in a page. In this case, it's going to be the index page from the contact folder with 100%, height 600, no frame border, auto scrolling, meaning if it needs to, it'll scroll. And that's it. And make sure and save it. No PHP code. It's just pure HTML. No beginning, ending HTML tags. We're just putting it in here as a wrapper. And the one reason we're doing it is because we want to use the Power PHP, and we're going to actually be inserting it into the index.php, which, by the way, if your main index of your website is index.html, you will need to change that to index.php. So go ahead and do that. If you've already done this, by the way, that's already been done. Those of you that have already done this, I know on your sites for week 3. So if you've already done that, don't just skip that step of changing this one. But the reason we need to change the extension to PHP is PHP code will not run in a file that ends in an extension of HTML. It has to be a PHP page, if that makes sense. And so even though like that iframe file, all it's doing is an iframe, that's it. That's all by being a PHP page, we can then use the include statement in just a second to include it in our main index page of our website. Okay, so did everybody do that? Rename your main page or main page index.html to PHP, or if it was already that way, you're good to go. Now let's go to the index.php of your entire site. And the way Bootstrap is, regardless of what Bootstrap you downloaded and installed, they have a couple things in common. One is every section, every div tag is segmented by sections. Okay, so if I go to the very top of my code, and you can go to the very top of yours, let's go to the area where the nav bar is, or the nav links is what it's called. And you'll notice in the nav bar or nav links, it goes to a pound symbol, href pound symbol on all of them. Like mine has about, services, portfolio, message board, my apps, and contact. All right. If you keep going down just a little bit to the very first time you see the word section, class, do you see that? Or section something? That is how div tags are determined. So on mine, I have section class, PG primary, or BG primary, and the ID is about in quotes. Okay, that's where the navigation then now gets in Bootstrap from the section. So if you'll scroll down to, well, let me ask you this. Raise your hand if you already have a contact, if you already have a section called contact or contacts. Okay, so if those of you raise your hand, go to that section. Those of you who do not have a contact section, watch me on the overhead. I'm going to show you how to do this. The easiest way to do it is go to the very bottom section of your site, whatever that section might be. Somebody tell me what the last section you have on your site called section. Anybody? What is it?
Line.
Line. Section. Not only a line, just need a name of the section. Like here's a section example called, let's see, section class is ID equals portfolio. So what do you have on yours? ID equals what? After the ID equals on the section.
No. You mean on the top or the bottom?
Doesn't matter. Yeah, keep going down. No, I need the main index page of your website. Of your website.
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. Keep going. All right. Scroll on up. Keep on to where your books are. Should be at the top. There it is. It's from out. See where it says about section? See where it says section ID equals about? That's the key, is section ID equals about. And you don't really need this class. Does actually not need to be there. You don't have to have it. But you do need the section space ID equals whatever for that to work. So here's what you want to do. Find any section. It doesn't really matter. I'm trying to find a short section in mine to show you. I had one for contacts already in here, but I'll use that one as an example, I guess. Because all of my sections have a section ID, whatever, and then underneath that is a div class called container. Do you guys have that in your bootstraps? Right underneath your section ID? Do you guys have a div class called container? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, cool. And then, so that's all you really need is a div ID, a section ID, and then a div class container, and that's, basically all you need. So what I might do to make it simpler is at the bottom of your code, right before let's see, right above the jQuery, like if you see on mine where all your bootstraps have this, right, by the way, all your bootstraps will have a line for jQuery, Bootstrap core, JavaScript, plugin JavaScript, custom theme JavaScript. Above the jQuery line is where we're going to put this new section. Okay, for those of you that don't have a contact section already. So those of you I'm helping right now are those who do not have a contact section already. So bear with me. Above the jQuery line, you're going to type in some code. And I'll type it on the overhead, and then you can do it with me. So what you're going to do is type in a section ID called contact. I'm going to put contacts on mine. So lesser than symbol, section, the word section, space, ID equals contact, in quotes, greater than symbol. And then as soon as you put in the greater than symbol, hit the enter key. And let's end that section ID tag with a lesser than symbol, / section, greater than symbol. All right. The next underneath that, underneath section ID contact, I'm going to put in a div class container just to make the wrapper look nicer. So right underneath your section ID equals contact, I want you to type in or copy and paste, find a div class equals container line and put it there right underneath the section ID contact. And make sure and let's end that div with a greater than symbol or lesser than symbol / div greater than symbol. And then one last div or one last section I'm going to put in here is a center tag, just regular HTML center tag. So I'm going to put in my center tag and start it and hit end. It should put an end tag in there for you. And so what you should end up with, I'll copy and paste it and put it in a bigger form where you guys can see it hopefully better. What you should end up with is something that looks like that at the bottom of your code, right above the JavaScript tag. Make sense? So make sure you have that, because you have to have that in order to bring in or to add a new navigation. Those of you that don't have a contacts navigation ready, you gotta have at least that to start with. Those that already have a contact area, all you need to do is at the bottom of that contact section, right above your end section line, right above that end section line, I want you to put a center tag right above it, a beginning and end center tag, right above your section tag. Actually, let's put it within the div. Let's put it within the div. Your end div tag, so for the section. Put a center right there. For your end div, perfect. That's good. I got that. Need to wait a little bit longer for that. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is, going back to my code here, a one-line statement where you're going to include in the middle of that center tag, you're going to include the message or the contact. So it should look like this here instead of modules. Well, it's going to be modules, and I made mine contacts plural. I think I had you guys do contact singular. But make sure you have modules should be in there. Go into the modules folder, and then the file in there I'm going to is contacts.php, which is the iframe, go into the main file. So what I'm doing is on this one line, I'm including that contacts.php page that I put in the modules folder that has an iframe, right? That's going to show up or should show up at the bottom of my page. Leave that up there for just a second while you guys are finishing that up. Everybody good? No? Still typing in? No. Let me come walk around, see how you're doing. That's what it's showing up looking like, by the way, just like that. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about it. So everybody got theirs in there. So let's do this. We got the link in the site. I had mine at the top here of my page. I already had a contact section in there, and it ended up showing up here at the bottom of my page. And so that's how you insert it basically into your existing HTML is by converting the HTML page to PHP first, then adding to your code a new section. If you already have a section, just adding in there a center, and then inserting your module or including your module by this line of code here. So anytime you want to add any other modules into your site, that's how you do it. You have to create a new section, div tag container, center, and then create a new module in your modules folder that's going to go do a iframe back to whatever module you've just created. Done. And now it's added to your div tag. Now the one thing I didn't show you, it's in the video, is I'll end with the at the top of your site on your index.php page, there is like I have a whole bunch of lists here for my nav bar. And all you have to do to create your new link is add in that new copy an existing LI, copy an existing LI from your nav, paste it, and put the new href to your new section area that you just added, which is contact. And then it should show up now on your page to click on to go to that section. All right. So now I say here, submit the URL to your site. So if you go to week 4 exercise, if you will submit to me the URL to your site, and so if you go back to your C9 test page, if you'll click on the share button on the upper right corner of C9, that share button here, if you'll do me a favor, here's what you're going to be doing for your take home too. See where it says invite people? If you'll put in my email address, it has to be an existing member, which here's my member email, ckonkol@gmail.com. And all I need is write access. I do not need read access. So make sure and check this. Otherwise, I'll come in and mess up your files. No, just kidding. Make sure and click R for read only. My email is ckonkol@gmail.com. And after you've done that, click the invite button here. It's hard to read it on the overhead. gmail.com. All right. It'll send me an invite to your site, and I can run it at any time. This is on your test site now. You're going to do the same thing, by the way, for your take home. But I just wanted to show you how to do that. So the link here that I want you to submit for week 4 is the application link, the middle one. So when you click on it, instead of opening up, just copy it. Click on the link, the application link, copy it. Go back to week 4 exercise and submit that URL in week 4 exercise. I believe I gave you guys the rights to submit a URL. Tell me if I didn't, but I believe I did in week 4 exercise. Do I know? Text entry, but you can paste it in there, right? Cool. Thank you. So paste that URL in the text entry area I gave you, and make sure to invite me if you haven't already done that. And I'll leave my email on the board there. So while you're doing that, I'm going to go back to our exercise. That finishes that up, by the way. Good job, everybody. Thanks for helping each other. For your take home, we're going to end with this. You're going to do another contact form of your own on your site, though not the one we clone. You're not the clone site, but your original site. Once you create a contact form that fits the look and feel of your site, and have it go to your Gmail account, as we did tonight. We learned tonight, by the way, Yahoo's blocked, so I would suggest using Gmail from now on everything. It surprised me Yahoo's blocked, but whatever. That's my very first email account, by the way, was Yahoo. After AOL was Yahoo. Second email, I guess. I still use it periodically. So what I want you to do for your form is have at least your full name like you had tonight, email, but then another field using regex, like it could be phone number, it could be whatever, hashtag, whatever. And I do have a podcast that will be showing up live in week 4 after class, and I'll email you where it's at. That way you can watch it. It's just like a 5-minute podcast showing you how to use that site, the txtre.com, to not only create the regex, but to put it in PHP code correctly. And so make sure there's validation for all fields. So full name, make sure it's not empty. Email, make sure it's not empty, and use regex like we did tonight. Another field, make sure it's not empty and use regex. You'll have to create your own. Now, you can just Google, by the way, regex phone number, and there's tons of examples that'll come up from Stack Overflow. Can you use that? For sure you can use that, definitely. But the little video I created shows you how to use this site and convert it to our PHP that we have now for that regex for email. But I recommend using it. You're not required to use the site or the podcast, but I recommend you using it. And then comment equals not empty, and make sure it's required. Instead of 15 characters, I'm beefing it up to 20 characters. Not just 15, but 20. So I have to figure out where to do that at. Number 4, create an iframe like we did tonight called contactsplural.php and your modules. Use a PHP include statement like we did. In your section tags, add navigation to your contact link if it's not already there. And then share and invite your workspace. This is important. Share your workspace to me like you did tonight for your test one to the cconco.gmail, and then submit the URL to your application line URL, the application URL to me below. Questions for your take home? All right, so here's the deal. A lot of stuff I know. Ajax, jQuery, Mailgun, regex. Those 4 are huge topics just alone by themselves. A lot of stuff, right? Here's what I recommend to do. Go home and copy your site again, clone it again, do the in-class again, at least 2 or 3 more times before attempting to do the assignment. But even before you do all that, make sure to do all the reading first, including make sure to do the W3 schools reading on jQuery and Ajax. That'll help you a lot. And then post in that reading what your thoughts are on Ajax, what you think, what your initial thoughts are, what surprised you about it. So after you've done your reading, watch the little podcast I show you on how to use regex. Do the in-class again at least once, twice. I would say at least twice outside of class again before you attempt to do your assignment on your actual site. All right? Make sense? Okay, if you have any questions, hang back. I'll help you out. I know a couple of you need some help with some other stuff, so just hang back and I'll help you. Otherwise, have a good night. Hope you stay cool or dry and warm. It's going to be cool. Cool's easy, I guess, with snow coming. So, but great job tonight. Appreciate it.